with the inductive sequence, it may be that I gain the details that I need, and that detail could be an admission. But I don't want to just stop there. Once I get the admission from the individual, now I want to move out into all the seemingly unimportant details about the details about the details, so that in the event that the individual does recant an admission, all of this other information that I have that only the doer of the wrongful deed would know is going to be there to serve. What I may want to do with the deductive sequence is to go with a non-directive interview with open questions, talk about some ancillary things just to get this individual to talk, so that as I begin to see the breathing go down deeper into the chest, the muscles in the face begin to relax, and the arms and legs begin to move out from the body, then I can move into some of the details and move into some of the specifics. The lowest level of control, I call it paycheck control. It's also known as performance or positional control, and it's also known as situational control. But paycheck control, the control, the power that the interviewer has, comes with a paycheck. Paycheck control is something that someone gives you, and consequently someone can take that away. Paycheck control or situational control is in a sense going the way of the buffalo. So as an interviewer, and when I say I'm talking about all of us, I want to have a higher level of control rather than the fact that someone gave me a job and that individual could take that job away from me. Now, the next level of control, I call it participant alliance control. It's sometimes known as agreement control. I want to think of my interviews as a dance, and that in a dance, everybody walks away with something. Now, I don't necessarily mean that if I get a confession or an admission that this individual is going to be ecstatically happy. But what I want to do is to have this individual have a buy-in into the outcome of that interview, and I want to have the ability to use my questions in order to make that happen. Now, the third level of control is known as capability control. It's also known as performance control. Now, the interviewer that has capability control is the individual that can make effective action decisions. They know what to do, they know when to do it, and they know how to do it. Now, the thing about capability control is this: no one can give it to you, and no one can take it away. The ultimate level of control is known as affecting control. It's also known as persuasive control. The person that has affecting control is the interviewer that has the best of both worlds, because here's an interviewer that gets what they want, but the other individual is amenable to the outcome of the interview. What we want to be able to do is to use our questioning ability to get that individual to go from unwilling to willing, but to do it in a way that will be conducive to the long-term outcome post the interview process. What I want to be able to do is to not only be able to plan appropriately better, but I want my questioning ability to be better than their ability to deflect or to thwart me in my goal to get to the truth. So then the other thing that we take into consideration with regard to this are the sequencing of questions. And it's just like playing golf. Even though we're all maybe going to hit the same shot, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to use the same club. And even if we were to use the same club, that doesn't necessarily mean we're all going to hold it the same way. So if we'll think of these questioning techniques, as clubs in a golf bag, then what we may pull out may be different at the same stage in the same interview. It is critical that the second part of the ability to ask people questions is the ability to pay attention to them when that individual is responding to us. So these questions that we're going to look at are really the instruments, the golf clubs, if you will, of the interviewing process. I want to start with the most common type of interview, which is the directive or the directed interview, which is typified by closed questions, or common types of closed questions are do, is, are, or did. Now, certainly they're not limited to that, but as we'll see with the next slide, closed questions are very restrictive because the answer options are limited, and they're normally answered with or yes or a no. When you ask an open-ended question, it will encourage thought and encourage continued conversation. We'll move on, Don. Now, the most salient open questions are what, how, why, could, or would. Continuing on to the narration, when you ask an open question, people will produce a narrative. And because of the fact that they are responding, they, like most people in society, think as long as I'm talking, I'm in control. But as an interviewer, we know exactly the opposite. Power or control is the ability to elicit a response. Continuing on, now the individual's answer is much more expansive. Continuing, the individual has more freedom to respond, and the more they respond, the more the learned, attentive interviewer can pick up from verbs and pronouns and all these other things that we've talked about in our previous session. Let's move on to secondary questions. Now, secondary questions are techniques that will encourage open questions to go even better. And the first type of secondary question that I want to talk about, we'll move on to the reflective probe. Now, the reflective probe is a process, and Don's going to go ahead and put all four of the dynamics that are up there. I've asked an open question, and what I want to be able to do is to establish normal, comfortable eye contact with that individual. I want to give them auditory confirmation. That is this. I want to give them that vocalization that says, I'm interested and I'm listening. A leading question makes an assumption in the question itself. And the thing about a leading question is it tends to produce the most honest answer because it is an unguarded response. Now, leading questions are a truth teller's friend. What I want to do with the summary return is this. I will summarize what that individual has told me up to that point. What I want to be able to do is to cause this individual to own or commit to their narrative, and then I'll move the interview forward with another open question.